I am obsessed with music. I love listening to music all the time. And here's something that you guys might not know. But recently, archaeologists have been doing very serious digs on ancient cultures. And one of the things that they found in North America, now this is very old and very ancient, but one of the things that they've been digging up recently is some of these. Any of you ever seen one of these before? No, they found this with dinosaurs. This is a CD case. Yeah. How many of you have ever seen a CD case before? Okay. How many of you have ever used a CD before? Do you know what's amazing? Literally last service, we saw some people really struggle to understand how a CD works. This is not how you listen to music now. You listen to music with a playlist, right? You just if you want to hear a song, you're just gonna search the song. If you want to hear a song, you just go to YouTube or Spotify or Apple Music, or if you're old like me, Pandora. If you are interested in an album, you can listen to it at any moment. But there was a time in recorded history when George Washington and Cleopatra roamed the earth, not at the same time, when people listened to music like this. And here's what you would do. You would have to find your the CD that you'd want, and you'd throw it in the player, and it was absolutely amazing. You could hear all these tracks. Now, things got crazy at one point, because one point they created this thing called the CDR. Anybody know what that is? The CDR. The CD recordable, where you could put your own songs and make a mix track of every song that you wanted on there. Now all you have to do is pick a playlist. But follow me, this was revolutionary. You were like, our own music? And what you could do is you'd burn a CD with all your favorite songs, and then you'd give it to your best friend, and you'd be like, oh, you got to hear this. This has the best stuff. And you'd give it to your friend, and they'd be like, oh my goodness, you got to hear mine. And you'd give them, they'd give you their CD, and you'd swap CDs, and then that's how it would work until the darkest day. The darkest day would be when you would go to put in that CD into the player, and all hell would break loose. You put it in the player, and all of a sudden, instead of hearing the melody, the sound, the things, the lyrics, everything you wanted to hear, instead you'd hear and what would happen is, when the back of the CD got scratched, it would start to skip through the song. And you couldn't listen to the song. You guys have no idea what this is like. You have no idea. YouTube has never failed you. But there was a time when you would put this in, and immediately you would recognize, oh no, something is broken. You'd pull it out. You'd try to wipe it off. Try to get some residue off of there, stick it back in, and it would still not play. And that was the sign. It was the moment that you recognized something is broken. Something is not working. Now, a lot of us have, I think, like a theme song in our life. We've got music that we like to put on repeat. Think about this. There are things that you tell yourself every day. Some of you have the songs that play in your head every day, and they are hype tracks. And so you get up in the morning, and like as soon as you wake up, like, I'm gonna have a great day. And then you're getting ready, and you're like in your head, you're like, we're gonna do this, we're gonna have fun, and your whole day is like that. Some of you don't wake up like that. Some of you wake up, and the thing that's playing in your head is fear. You're afraid. You're afraid of the quiz that's coming up later today, or maybe you're afraid of having a conversation with somebody who's not been getting along with you. Maybe you wake up and you're afraid of your parents finding out that you didn't do your homework. Maybe you wake up and the song that's playing in your head is what other people are saying about you. Maybe the song that's playing in your head is what somebody called you during PE, or what somebody mumbled after you walked by them under their breath. Maybe the song that plays in your head is how you played at your last sports game, and you played and it wasn't what you wanted, and you just keep going, oh my goodness, I'm a failure. Maybe the song that plays in our head is broken. And we're on a series called On Repeat. And we're talking about the things that we need to put on repeat in our lives. And one of the things that you might not recognize immediately that every single one of us needs is encouragement. Jesus is going to show us that encouraging is worth repeating. It's worth having encouragement on repeat in your life. Now, we might not always think about encouragement being necessary and powerful and important, but it absolutely is. If you've got a Bible, go with me to Mark chapter 2. If you don't have a Bible, but you do have a phone, you can open your phone up, Google Mark chapter 2, or open the Bible app to Mark chapter 2. But if you open your phone and start checking your Instagram, we will break it. No, but maybe. But no, but maybe. And so anyway, go to Mark chapter 2. Mark chapter 2 is going to tell us a story about Jesus. And Jesus was incredibly well liked by everybody. People were flooding him with trying to get close to him. In fact, everyone wanted to be so close to Jesus that it made it harder for anyone to get close to Jesus. What happened was everybody tried to get close to Jesus, and there's one day in Mark chapter 2 where it's so packed that no one could get close. It says in Mark chapter 2 verse 2, it says that the people who came, they filled the whole house, and they even filled the door. And then it picks up in Mark 2, and it says, while Jesus was preaching God's word to them, 4 men arrived carrying a paralyzed man on a mat. They couldn't bring him to Jesus because of the crowd, so they dug a hole through the roof above his head. And I love what Aiden just said. That's normal, you know? You know, you ever show up and the place is so crowded that you just like kicked through a window to get inside? No, none of us have ever done this. None of us, that's not your next reaction ever. You have never showed up at a place that was so busy that you were like, hey, what if we make a permanent hole in this? Jesus is preaching. The house is packed. So many people are coming in. There's a man who cannot walk. And it says he has friends carry him. Now, those friends are really important in this story. Those friends are doing for their one friend what he can't do for himself. He can't get close to Jesus. He can't bring himself to God. But they can help him. And so even when they bring him to Jesus, but they can't get close enough. I mean, that's a moment that maybe most of us would probably quit. It would make sense for a lot of people to just say, hey, you know what? Jesus looks really busy. Let's try again later. Let's figure this out, but not today. But his friends don't quit. Instead, what they do is they climb up on a roof. They dig through, and they make space so that their friend can encounter Jesus. Those are good friends. Those are friends who they're trying to add something. They're trying to encourage. This is what it keeps saying, verse 5, that when Jesus saw the faith of the friends, Jesus turned to the paralyzed man and he said, my child, your sins are forgiven. That's really important. And then in verse 10 it says, Jesus turned again to him and said, stand up, pick up your mat, go home. The man jumped up, grabbed his mat, walked out through the stunned onlookers. They were amazed and praised God, exclaiming, we've never seen anything like this before. You know, sometimes we're going to be the person on the mat. We're discouraged. We need help. Sometimes you're going to be in the position of a friend, and you see someone around you who's discouraged, and they need help. And what we need to do is make sure that encouragement is on repeat for us. So we're going to talk a little more about what that looks like, but for now, let's turn into our tag groups. We're going to spend a few minutes together, then we'll be back. Part of the reason that we'll put a song on repeat is because we want to hear what it sounds like again. And I love to do like the repeat one. You know what I'm talking about? Where it just loops the same exact song over and over and over. And you know what? Even when I listen to a song, oftentimes the first time I'll listen to it, I can't really make out all the words. Like, I don't know exactly what they're saying. But the more and more and more you listen to it, the more you start to go, oh, this part, it says this here, it says this here. And eventually, you find yourself singing along, right? And you're going, and you're doing the whole thing with it. I always sing in the falsetto, the just top of the register. No, you find yourself singing along. And sometimes, have you ever found that some kinds of songs influence how you're feeling? Like, I'll listen to songs. I have a playlist for running. And it's music that I want to listen to that's going to get me excited for running outside. And I was playing it in the car yesterday, and my son was in the car with me, and it was playing some songs that we normally like, we normally listen to, but it also hit a song that he had never heard on my playlist before. It was a song from a Christian death metal band, and it started It started to play, and they started to sing, and by sing, I mean that loosely, because what it actually sounds like is, right? It sounds like death. And my son was like, Dad, that's horrifying. And I was like, yeah, but it's a song about truth. And, and it gets me hyped to run. And sometimes we'll listen to these things. And I think encouragement is a lot like that, where sometimes, follow, not like the death metal song, but the way that we treat music. And here's why. Sometimes I'll put on a song because the sound of it will change my mood a little bit. You ever play sad songs when you're sad? Or happy songs when you're happy? Or love songs when you're in love? No, you don't. You've never been in love. But sometimes we'll play songs that fit our mood. Sometimes we'll pick songs because of the words that they're singing. When it comes to encouragement, a lot of encouragement is the words that come out of our mouth or come out from other people's mouths. I'll tell you right now. There's a leader who's only been in my life a couple of years, but every time they talk to me, they say something encouraging, and it is so life-giving. Every time I have a conversation with them, they're like, you know what? I think the world of you. Kellen, you're okay, bro. You're okay. Grab a seat. I have this leader in my life who is so encouraging, who says so many kind things to me. And every time they talk to me, I go, oh my gosh, that's refreshing. That's refreshing. When you guys hear somebody who, you get a good grade on a test and your teacher goes, this was incredible, I'm so proud of you. I don't know that any of us would hear that and go, I'm stupid, right? Most of us go, Or maybe when somebody says, hey, that was a great shot, that was a great game, I'm really proud of you. When they say something encouraging to you, all of us go, right? Because we like it. Sometimes encouragement, in fact, a lot of times encouragement is our words. But you know what? Sometimes encouragement isn't just words. In that story of Jesus and the paralyzed man, we don't have anything that the paralyzed man's friends were saying to him. And I imagine that they probably encouraged him. I imagine that they probably were like, hey, this is going to be incredible. Jesus is going to change something. And I also imagine, now I don't know if this is actually true. I don't know if it happened in the Bible. But I can imagine that he's in that mat while his friends are dragging him to Jesus. And as they're dragging him and he sees like, oh man, the house is packed. There's no way we're going to get in. I imagine he's going to be like, hey, guys, it's okay. We don't have to see Jesus today. Hey, don't worry about it. Hey, don't worry about it. And his friends are like, no, we are going to dig through a man's roof so that you can see Jesus. And they encouraged him by their actions. They showed up. They encouraged him not just by their actions, but also by their belief. Because they believed so much of what Jesus could do that they were willing to dig through a roof so that he could get close. Do you know what? Sometimes people don't have to say things to encourage me. Sometimes just seeing somebody show up for me is encouraging. You know what I mean? Like when you're playing a game and somebody that you care about shows up just to watch your game. And maybe they don't even have to say anything, but you just get encouraged because they came for you. Or I have a friend of mine who he's really fun, and one of my little kids has been drawing pictures, and one of my little kids drew a picture and left it out, and my friend came over and he was like, hey, you know what? I love this picture so much, I'm going to pay for it. And tomorrow, you need to show your kid the money that I paid for his artwork. And so when my kid woke up the next morning and there was a crisp dollar bill for his coloring sheet paper, he felt like the greatest artist of all time. And nobody said anything to him, but they encouraged him by their actions, right? And you know what's really special? Is that all of us need encouragement all the time. In Hebrews chapter 10, verse 24, it says this: let us think of ways to motivate one another to acts of love and good works. And let us not neglect our meeting together, as some people do, but encourage one another, especially now that the days of his return is drawing near. Now, there's a few big things in here. Number one, it says, let us think of ways to encourage one another. And you know what? That is not a common thing. It's usually not common for us to think about, hey, how do I help my friend do good? It's not often for us to think, how can I make my friend feel better today? How can I encourage my parents today? How can I lift up the person around me? But the Bible says we should be thinking of that often. The other thing it says when Christians get together, he says, let us not neglect meeting together. In other words, don't skip church, don't skip this, because when we come together, one of the things that we get to do together is encourage each other. That's what we get to do in Tag Group. That's what I get to do up here, is I try to encourage you. We get to be encouragers together. And here's why: because encouragement is worth repeating. Jesus says encouragement is worth repeating, or he shows us that encouragement is worth repeating. Do you know what would never be a bad thing? If you were to leave from J-Box and to try to encourage one person every single day, you would change so many people's lives. You would make such an impact. If you left here and said, hey, I'm going to pick one person a day, and I'm going to try to say something nice, or I'm going to try to show up for them, or I'm going to try to do something that just helps them be seen, helps them be known, helps them, if you tried to do that just one time a day, it would make such a huge impact.